Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment of our program brought to you by Southeast Termite and Pest Control. It's time for the termite swarmers, folks. You might have seen them out there. You might think they're flying ants, but it pays to be sure that they are ants and not termites. And just spraying the swarmers, some people I know have sprayed, you go out and spray the swarmers, that does you no good. Those things are just looking for new colonies. If you see swarmers in and around your house, you've already got a colony. Give a call, protect your home. Southeast Termite and Pest Control. Call those guys. They take care of my home. Let them take care of yours. SoutheastTermite.com to learn more about their termite protection. Now is the time to do it. All right. We told you a few weeks ago that cops calling coaches and athletic departments was not out of the ordinary. It all happens everywhere. That's standard operating procedure. Then we told you last week when the Tennessean revealed the timeline of the calls from the KPD and Butch Jones that it doesn't look good. We don't know what went on, don't know what was said. But we do know that by the timeline, it's possible they could have been getting their stories together. At least that's the way it looks, and that's the way I think that they'll try and present it at that trial whenever this thing does go to trial. But here's the thing. The KPD announced as a result of all this stuff kind of getting the press, the spotlight on it from the Tennessean, as a result, the KPD has decided we're not going to make courtesy calls to UT anymore. Now, they say they're still going to call UT police as they always do, and I'm going to assume that some of the UT police will immediately call Butch Jones. So I don't think it's a big deal that way, but overall, just this change in the philosophy for something that goes on elsewhere, big deal or not a big deal?
Well, for something that's been going on as long as we can remember, it is a big deal to me. I'm not as taken aback about this because I think things and details emerge. And a lot of times Butch Jones is finding out what happened. So, I mean, I'm not as much concerned about that. But, yes, it is a big deal. They're changing the policy.
Okay. Anybody agree, disagree?
It looks bad, but I got to, and I'm sure people have pointed this out before, but if it's some sort of cover-up, it's got to be the worst cover-up in the history
Yes.
of cover-ups, because we know that the police went to AJ's apartment some 8 hours after he talked to Butch Jones, where they found evidence related to this investigation as well as marijuana paraphernalia. I'm no criminal mastermind, but I got to think, if I know the cops might be coming to my place, I'm probably getting rid of the weed stuff before they show up.
Not to mention the fact that the cops of anybody, of all the people, they know that phone records can be,
Sure.
Yeah. Called upon and retrieved. So, yeah, if it was a cover-up, it was a poor one. But the problem is, as you said last week, it's the word of the day, optics. The optics aren't good. Let me switch it, unless you guys think it's a big deal or not.
I do not think it's a big deal.
I'm okay with it. A level play. I'm a taxpayer and a level playing field.
Okay. Now, look, the Sentinels followed suit with some of your own Freedom of Information Act stuff. We talk about it on this show. I know, Russell, you talk about it on your show. It's on the radio shows in town, websites. But I don't think it's any big thing to say that the Tennessean is kind of driving this boat. Every week there's something new that's coming out from more than likely that attorney's office for the plaintiffs that are right down the street from the Tennessean. But at this point, I would actually use the word vendetta. Rarely do I use that word, but I think when a paper continues to rattle a cage of somebody, you can call it vendetta. So my question is this, twofold. One, if it's a vendetta, is it a vendetta? Is that a bad word to use? Two, do you think they have a target for UT right now? Two, if it is a vendetta, does it matter if they find stuff that's real? I mean, the Washington Post, I don't know if it was a vendetta, but they were dug in on Watergate. Well, the thing is, they got 99.9% of that story right. I don't know if the Tennesseans batting, from what I've seen, I don't know if they're batting 99.9%. If they get it right, is it okay to have a vendetta? And do you think it's a vendetta? Was that a poor choice of words?
I'm going to go with poor choice of words.
Get off my set.
And the reason is, I think that what the Tennessean and the reporters have is a really good source, the lawyers in the case, and I think when you're a journalist and you've got somebody who's feeding you information, you want to do something with it. You want to use it. Now, you hope that you're balancing that with information from the other side.
Which they're not.
But I have seen journalistic vendettas locally before. Mike has too. I don't guess you probably want to talk about it right now, but I've seen vendettas, and this one doesn't strike me as the same.
All right.
To me, a vendetta applies that they're out to get UT for a reason or have something against UT, and I don't think that's the case. Full disclosure, the News Sentinel, which I work for, has just joined the Gannett family, which Gannett is the company that owns the Tennessean. I see it as, I think the people in charge at the Tennessean, I don't know them, but I feel like that they just they don't have a particular knowledge or an affinity for UT. I don't think they have a vendetta against them. I just think they see it as an opportunity to press investigative journalism.
One thing I thought was interesting was former Tennessean columnist and your buddy David Clymer wrote for another publication recently. I think, to paraphrase, he said they were overreacting to some of this stuff, that the Tennessean was, and I think some of the way they've presented some of these things, like, well, that's common knowledge. You're making this look like a big deal. It's not a big deal. Mm-hmm. There's some of that involved. Now, does that count as a vendetta or not? Don't know.
I think part of it is Tennessee obviously is not fighting their case in the court of public opinion the way the plaintiffs in this lawsuit are. So,
Clearly.
I mean, they could pick up the phone at any time and call some of these reporters from the Tennessean and say, hey, this isn't right, this isn't right, here's what you should be writing, but they're clearly not doing that.
Do you think, though, and this is, look, I'm not some guy that sits around saying, they're out to get Tennessee. I mean, half the time people are saying that about me. So I'm not trying to take up for the Volunteers with some shield here. But I would be surprised if University of Tennessee called the reporter in question, gave that reporter information, if that reporter would run it. I think they would probably be spun as well.
Okay,
They claim this, but
And if that happened, then it is a vendetta. If you've got the other side coming your way and you decide that no, we're gonna shove that over here, yeah, then you are part of a vendetta.
Chuck, vendetta, bad word?
No, because I think it's closer to that than it's not. Because it's not
More
fair.
probable than not, it's a vendetta.
Well, I mean, and it's not fair and balanced reporting. I mean, to me, I can see meetings in their newsroom of what are we going to have this week? What can we come out with this week? Or I just don't like the way it's gone in terms of a fair and objective presentation of what they're doing.
Russell's right to an extent, though, because UT they are waiting, and we'll talk about this a little later. They are waiting to put all their stuff on the table once a lot of other things get handled by the judge. He's got to rule on some motions before Tennessee puts that defense out there. A defense that was told to me in late February. It's coming in a couple weeks. So many things have happened that it's still delayed. Very quickly, just give me a yay or nay. If the Tennessean's right about this, let's say the Tennessean is out to get Tennessee, or at least this reporter and the editor are out to get UT. Not fair, let's put it that way. But if they're right about all this, does it matter? I say if you're right about it, it doesn't matter.
Well, you're going to be, yes, but you're going to be right about some things in the end.
Yeah, but I think you got to be right about a lot of it before I'm going to say okay.
Exactly.
If you're wrong about it, it matters.
All right.
Yeah.
Does that make it okay if you're right about it?
If you're right about it.
If they did have a bone to pick with UT, and they're correct.
If you're
about it.
reporting the facts, yes. Even if you've got a bone to pick, if you're right.
I agree. Mike?
Yeah, if you're correct.
Okay. All right, very good. When we come back, UT is looking at spending an insane amount of money to renovate Neyland Stadium again. We'll discuss that. We'll show you what they've got in mind or what's being discussed. And then we'll ask you the key question, is the little guy getting priced out of the stadium? We don't know the ticket prices yet, but I'm guessing it won't be cheap just to walk in and get yourself a new suite or patio box. We'll discuss. Come on back on the Sports Source.